There's really no one more brilliant than Aaron Siri in a testimony, inside of a courtroom. He's the lead attorney of all the work that we do with ICANN. We've brought so many different lawsuits. We've won against the CDC, the FDA, Health and Human Services, the NIH. We're like no news program you've ever watched. We don't just report on the problems. We go out and we change it. At the heart of the Informed Consent Action Network, our nonprofit, really was a couple of major goals. We've always said we're dedicating to eradicating man-made disease. But how do you do that? We believe that one of the issues you have is this mandated vaccine program. The health of our children has declined incredibly from the beginning of this program to where we're at now, starting with just a few vaccines back in the 1960s, under 10, to now more than 72. And in that period of time, we have watched a decline in public health like we've never seen. When we were getting 11 doses in 1986, the chronic illness rate was 12.8% in the United States of America. That accelerated to 53 doses. But remember, those have multiple vaccines in them, so 72, 73, somewhere in there. And now we're looking at 54% of America's children have chronic illness, and that was 2011. They stopped recording this. We don't know where we're at now in the last 12 years. You have to imagine it's horrible because they won't let us see it. But that decline in public health is the greatest decline in recorded human history. Anyone that tells you that vaccines have made us safer have absolutely no evidence of it. But at the heart of this conversation, we set out back in 2017 when we started the Informed Consent Action Network, actually the end of 2016, coming into 2017, I teamed up with Aaron Siri because we weren't getting answers. This product, if it's safe or effective, needs to be able to prove it, but there's no way to know what they know. There's no way to know if it causes prion disease because you can't sue the manufacturer. You can't find out, like we did with glyphosate, that is causing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma because we can't get into a courtroom. It's protected by our government from liability. So you cannot get internal documents, internal emails, and find out what's going on. So we started suing the government. I brought in Aaron Siri and said, look, if we can't go after the manufacturers, we're going to sue the government that's protecting them. And through that, we started finding out all the studies that had not been done, all of the things they've been lying about us. If you want transparency, no one has brought more transparency to the vaccine discussion than right here, the HighWire, the Informed Consent Action Network, and the over 1,000 FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests that Aaron Siri and his team has made on our behalf to government agencies to find out what they actually know. And in the heart of that, we had a horrific discovery that not a single childhood vaccine had ever been through a proper safety trial. Not one of them. In all those 72 vaccines, none of them was ever tested in a long-term safety trial where one group got the vaccine and the other group got a placebo. That is how all drugs determine safety. If you're going to take a cancer drug, you have to see how it affected people that took it over 3 years, 6 years, 10 years. Never done with vaccines. We've been called liars, spreaders of misinformation, disinformation. That's a lie. Vaccines are the most studied things there are in the world. If there's one thing we know for sure is vaccines are safe and effective, and there's nothing wrong with it. Well, we were reporting and telling you everything we discovered. We have scientific evidence behind everything we've done. And ultimately, COVID came along and changed the entire conversation because the world watched what we knew about every other vaccine, that the COVID vaccine was not properly safety tested. They only had a placebo group for the first few weeks, then they erased it once they got emergency use authorization. They had no long-term studies to tell you whether or not this would cause prion disease and neurodegenerative disorders or anaphylaxis or heart attacks, myocarditis, pericarditis, or turbo cancers, all things that are doing this right now, not just in America, but all around the world. At the heart of this conversation, then scientists started waking up and saying, well, look, The COVID vaccine is a disaster. It should have had longer safety trials, but don't let it make you afraid of the rest of the childhood vaccine program, because it's awesome and it's been well tested, and we have no concerns with it whatsoever. Everyone's been getting it for many years, millions of children, and everybody's doing great. Forget about the highest chronic illness rate in the world, by the way. Well, at the heart of all of that, we kept pounding the drum. And Aaron Siri just got asked to not just be in front of a state legislature like he did in Arizona or the other states that we've been playing those through. And by the way, if you want to watch that, you just go to the HighWire.com and you can see his entire congressional hearing. But guess what? They wanted to bring him in to talk about the COVID pandemic because they're basically got Tony Fauci admitting, yeah, all that social distancing, that really wasn't based in science. Oh, do masks work? No, we don't have any evidence of it. The man who called himself the science, if you're questioning me, you're questioning science, is now saying, I don't know why you were listening to me. Nothing we were doing had anything to do with science. So as all of this is happening, people are waking up. We have congressional hearings that are now asking all the right questions. And finally, Aaron Siri went in and started talking about not just the COVID vaccine, but the whole vaccine program. So I want you to imagine, what is this doing in this country? What are all of you that have supported? What have we achieved here? Well, there obviously are now legislators, whether Democrats or Republicans, senators or congressmen and women that are out there that have heard this message. There's no safety trials being done. What do you think happens then? They go to the health department and say, hey, we got these crazy people. You've been calling them anti-vaxxers. They're saying you've never done a safety trial. So will you bring the safety trials in here so we can refute it? Could you come in from a congressional hearing and show it to us? They can't. They won't, because we haven't been lying to you. We did our research. And now the head of the vaccine program, the godfather of vaccinations, Dr. Stanley Plotkin, the man, when you go to a CDC meeting, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, that's going to decide whether you're going to get another vaccine like COVID added to the childhood schedule, when they start that meeting and they slam that gavel on the desk, that gavel's called the Plotkin gavel, named after Stanley Plotkin, just came out with this article to deal with all the people asking, have they been properly tested? Pre-licensure testing? What about all the post-licensure surveillance? We've told there's mountains of evidence. Here is the article I want to bring your attention to, folks. We just won. The New England Journal of Medicine, funding post-authorization vaccine safety science. These are just a couple of excerpts. You can see this if you simply sign up to our website. We'll send you the newsletter. You can read this whole thing. You can find it yourself. However, the widespread vaccine hesitancy observed during the COVID-19 pandemic suggests that the public is no longer satisfied with the traditional safety goal of simply detecting and quantifying the associated risks after a vaccine has been authorized for use. After it has been authorized for use. The public also wants public health authorities to mitigate and prevent rare but serious adverse reactions that we've been telling you for decades aren't happening. Now they know they are, which are no longer seem rare when vaccines are given to millions or billions of people. You're absolutely right, and that's all we've ever said. You cannot give a product that hurts some people some of the time to billions of people and not start watching absolute carnage taking place. He goes on to admit this. Post-authorization studies, meaning after we approved it, after we didn't do the proper safety studies to license it, post-authorization studies are needed to fully characterize the safety profile of a new vaccine. Since pre-licensure clinical trials have limited sample sizes, follow-up durations, and population heterogeneity, meaning since we never had a placebo group, since it never lasted more than a couple of months long, we have no ability to tell you they're safe. Stanley Plotkin is now admitting it to the world. Let me read on. Progress in vaccine safety science has understandably been slow. What? I thought you told us there was mountains of evidence. I thought you told us they're all safe. Everybody go back to sleep. We know for sure these vaccines aren't causing all the issues that you're talking about. Let's go back to the lie being hold back. Progress in vaccine safety science has understandably been slow, often depending on epidemiologic evidence that is delayed or is inadequate to support causal conclusions, and on an understanding of biologic mechanisms that is incomplete, which has adversely affected vaccine acceptance. No, it's adversely affected the results of the vaccine. People that are anti-vaccine aren't anti-vaccine, especially not the ones that are injured. As Aaron so clearly put out, they're anti having been injured by a product they once believed in. All right, it continues as we get to the end of this. Identifying the biologic mechanisms of adverse reactions, how and in whom they occur, is critical for developing safer vaccines, preventing adverse reactions by expanding contraindications, and equitably compensating vaccinees for true adverse reactions. Let's just go back to the top of the sentence. Identifying the biologic mechanisms of adverse reactions, how and in whom they occur, is critical. Meaning, we have never done it. That is all that we have ever tried to get across here on the HighWire. Vaccine injury is real, and they're doing no science looking into it. As I've shown you before, Bernadine Healy, former head of the NIH, said, "I was shocked to find that when I looked through all of our archives, we never studied a group of autistic children who had received the vaccines. Never. That study was never done. We just assumed it couldn't possibly be happening because of vaccines." I think I have, what, another paragraph in this? That was it. So at the heart of this, you have now the head of the vaccine program. Really, this article is asking for more money. His solution is this. It's true. We didn't do proper clinical trials prior to licensure, so we don't know it's safe. And when we do all the post-licensure that you thought we were doing, we really weren't doing it because you didn't give us enough money. So now that everyone's getting injured by COVID, maybe even the President of the United States, and now that you're all getting really pesky about asking all these damn questions, maybe you should give us some money so we will finally do the science we told you has been done for decades. This is where we're at in the United States of America. This is where our vaccine program that we've pushed on the entire world is at. It is crashing down right now as we speak. And every scientist that's come on this show, and you've watched them start with, well, it's just a COVID vaccine. Well, maybe it's a few more, all the way to McCullough and others saying, I would not give a vaccine to my kids any longer. Because once you go down this rabbit hole, what Stanley Plotkin is admitting, there is no science whatsoever. How did this all start? It started because you were funding us. You were funding the Informed Consent Action Network. You were funding our lawsuits. You were funding our FOIA requests so that we could go after the government. You were also funding things like when there was a little case up in Detroit and the parent called and said, my husband's trying to force vaccinate my kid, and they're bringing in the lead vaccinologist of the world, Stanley Plotkin, to testify against me. Aaron Siri, is there any way that we could get some help? And we said, yeah, Aaron Siri, you funded him to go and put Stanley Plotkin on the stand. We've come full circle from the moment that happened to standing in front of Congress just last week. For all of you that are brand new to this, you are going to hear the voice of Aaron Siri in a, put his hand on the Bible deposition by Stanley Plotkin, asking exactly this. If the safety trials were too short to figure out if something was hurting somebody, how do you say it's safe? Take a look at this.
Dr. Plotkin, earlier you testified that there are two Hep B vaccines in the market, one by Glaxo, GSK, that's Engerix-B, and the other one is by Merck, Recombavax HB, right?
Yes.
This is the product, the manufacturer insert for Recombavax HB, correct?
Yes.
And the clinical trial experience would be found in section 6.1, correct? Correct? Dr. Plotkin?
Yes.
Okay. In section 6.1, when you look at the clinical trials that were done pre-licensure for Recombavax HB, how long does it say that safety was monitored after each dose?
Let's see. 5 days.
Is 5 days long enough to detect an autoimmune issue that arises after 5 days?
No.
Is 5 days long enough to detect any neurological disorder that arose from the vaccine after 5 days?
No.
There is no control group, correct?
It does not mention any control group. No.
No. If you turn to section 6.2, under immune system disorders, does it say that there were reports of hypersensitive reactions, including anaphylactoid reactions, bronchospasms, and urticaria having been reported within the first few hours after vaccination?
Yes.
Have there been reports of hypersensitivity syndrome?
Yes, that's what it states.
Reports of arthritis?
It is mentioned.
Okay. It also reports autoimmune diseases, including systemic lupus, erythematosus, lupus-like syndrome, vasculitis, and polyarteritis nodosa as well, correct?
Yes, that's what it states.
And also it states that under the nervous system disorders, it states that there have been reports of Guillain-Barré syndrome, correct?
Yes.
As well as multiple sclerosis, exacerbation of multiple sclerosis, myelitis, including transverse myelitis, seizure, febrile seizure, peripheral neuropathy, including Bell's palsy, radiculopathy. Thank you very much. Muscle weakness, hypothesia, and encephalitis, correct?
Correct.
These are events that are reported after vaccination, and as we've just discussed, in order to establish whether it's causal between the vaccine and the condition, you need a randomized, placebo-controlled study. But
Yes.
that was not done for this hepatitis B vaccine before licensure, was it?
No.
Okay. And given that the vaccine now appears on the CDC's recommended list, isn't it true that it would now be considered unethical to conduct such a study today?
It would be, yes, it would be ethically difficult.
Did you ever do a study using a placebo longer than 5 days? No, it wasn't done. Was that long enough to determine if any of the health outcomes that are listed here could be caused by the vaccine? No, it's not. And now that it's been approved for all of the world to take, would it be ethically difficult to do a proper study like like Plotkin is now asked to be funded? Yes, it would. The reason being, you no longer can ever have a placebo group once a product is approved, because now you are denying them what has already been said to be a safe and effective product. This is the loop and the circle that we now have ourselves in. But let me make this perfectly clear to the world. We're not done yet. I was just walking over here having read this, and someone on my team said, you know, Del, we've won. Do you recognize that? The game is over. We've won. I said, yes, but now we got to make sure that they admit it and that they know it and that no one else ever gets injured again. This has to be the end of vaccine mandates. Now that the HighWire and ICANN and no one else really at this level has proved what we just proved, no safety trial was ever properly done on any of the vaccines. There is no post-licensure safety trials being done. They're only asking for the funding now. Now you know that whether vaccines are safe or not is an absolute guess. And when they try to write off the increase in neurological and autoimmune disease that has gone from 12% to 54% and most likely is somewhere around 60%, they can no longer say we proved it's not the vaccines that increased at that same time. We win. This is over. Stop mandating this product on people. Go back to the drawing boards. But be careful who you do vote for, because when Stanley Plotkin says we need money, he's saying, give money to the same corrupt government that's lied to you for the last several decades, that never did the proper science, but told you it was safe when they knew they had no evidence of that. Give us the money to try and do the studies so that we can do what? Protect yourselves It is time to gut this government. It is time to gut our regulatory agencies. It is time for the truth. It is time for real science. And that's what this has always been about. We have work to do to make them prove it. We got a couple months to make this the conversation that's happening in this entire country. I want every single one of these presidents to have to say to you, every one of them running right now, I will end vaccine mandates because we can no longer say they're safe. That's what we're going for, and we need your help. We cannot give up now. If you are not donating to ICANN, please make this the day that you do. Yes, it's a victory, but we need the full win. So go to the top of the page, donate to ICANN. We'd love it if you become a recurring donor. We're asking for $24 for 2024, but whatever you can give makes a difference. And by the way, you ever watch horse racing? And sometimes, these horse trainers, they buy a horse that just won every single race, and they get the Kentucky Derby. They bought the horse like 3 days ago, and then they put it in the race like, we won the Kentucky Derby. Did you really? Well, yeah, you own the horse. I make this point. We're going to win this. So if you've been waiting all this time to see, well, are they going to be a winner? Donate your $1 now. Donate your $5 now. Donate your 20, 100, 1,000, 20,000, whatever you can do so that you can say, I bet on the winning horse and look, we won.